Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Conversations About Your Kundalini. My name is Chrism, and welcome to the program. I'd like to address the chat room first to see if the music worked. So if you can, if you can type into the chat window there, let me know if that music worked. That would be appreciable. I was able to listen to last week's shows, and I noticed a bit of a clicking sound there. So I'm going to attempt to eliminate that clicking sound. I know that can be a little irritating when you're trying to listen to the program. So far, Vicky sent a heart, and let's see. David says it came through a bit of interference. Well, okay. I will look at that, David. I'm not quite sure how to correct that, since this is all on the computer, right? Vicky says again, she says, I was wondering if I was in the right place. That's good. That would be appropriate. That would be an appropriate thing. So, as I mentioned earlier, thank you, David and Vicky. I appreciate that feedback. And I'd like to welcome everybody here, everybody who's here presently in this moment on the computer or on the telephone, or people who are listening to this in the archives, the future people. And, I'd like to welcome everybody who's calling in right now as well. I see we have a few call-in numbers there, but I'm not quite sure who that would be. So let us go ahead and begin. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about some aspects of what can block you from experiencing some of the really amazing qualities of the Kundalini. I would like you all to experience these things. I'd like you all to experience telepathy or psychometry or clairaudience or clairvoyance. I'd like you all to experience levitation, breathing underwater. You know, I'm sure there's a scientific term for the psychic skill of breathing underwater, but I don't know what that is. So we'll just call it the BUW, breathing underwater. We'll give it an acronym. That'll give it some clarity, I guess. And I need to ask once again, Vicki or David, if the sound, the voice quality is coming through at all. Do you notice there's no clicking going on right now? So I think I've pretty much taken care of the whole clicking issue. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. And so here we go. Sometimes the acidic skills will come during the activation phase that allows a person to really feel the compelling to have such an experience that contradicts so much of their teaching in this lifetime. To have that paranormal phenomena occur to you can be a great facilitator on the path. It can really help a person maintain an interest and maintain a desire to learn more and to do more within the Kundalini process as it comes through you. Very, very important to have that level of enthusiasm. But not everybody gets this. You know, sometimes the equation basically says, well, no, you have to pull yourself up and come into this by virtue of an instruction that was given to you 2.5 years ago, you know, or 5 years ago, or however many years ago it was for you, that the Kundalini gave you an instruction in a very psychic manner, and then you'll have to do it that way. But sometimes, you know, during the activation and more often during the awakening stages, a person will receive specific skill sets that the Sanskriti people called siddhis, and that is spelled Siddhis. So these siddhic skills can come onto a person. There's some of the skills that I just mentioned, like clairaudience and psychometry, clairvoyance, telepathy, things of that nature, but also levitation or, moving objects at will without touching them, or being able to go into the astral, or having, waking visions. These types of things are very, very conducive to creating a scenario for a person that would allow them to really develop enthusiasm for going forward into their journey. And the funny thing is that as a person receives these gifts, the ego will constantly second guess it. Like, well, did I really see that? Vicki Vaughn, did I really see that? Did you see it? You didn't see that, did you, Vicki? David, you didn't see it either, but I saw it. So, but because other people didn't see it, does that make it real? Or is it something that I'm just seeing and I'm supposed to, the ego will jump in and really try to dismantle the validity of the skill set. So even if you're having clairaudience or clairvoyance, it's like, oh gosh, maybe I'm just hearing things. My imagination is so powerful, so strong that I wanted to hear that thing call out my name in an empty room, and gosh, is that real? And so constantly these aspects of the ego will attack a person through the window of, is it real, the reality of it at all as they're experiencing this. And it will try to defray any kind of the enthusiasm that a person may have having these skills come upon them. And so what you really want to do is you really want to do your best to put your ego at rest when it comes to experiencing these things. Telepathy is one of the more common things that a person will develop. Did that guy just think about me? Did I see that picture? Did I see the picture? Did I see me through that person's eyes? Oh, that can't be real. Science doesn't support that, so it must not be real. So therefore, I must be imagining this. So there's another, level of believability that is kind of swept under the carpet because it doesn't, confine itself to the scientific teachings. It's not supported by the sleeping populations and their concepts of what is real and not real. And you've got to step out of that. If you want to have these acidic skill sets, you've got to nurture them from their initial placement within you. You've got to find a way to validate them. You've got to find a way to validate yourself in having them. Acidic skills at the beginning, they can be very, very fragile. They can be very open to disappearing because of an overactive egoic consciousness, basically negating their existence coming through you, even though your sensate self and your thinking self and the awakened or activated consciousness that you have within you is saying, no, this is real. This is a real thing. You have just experienced telepathy. You saw yourself through another person's eyes, or you heard what that person was thinking, that self-dialogue that people have going on all the time. Even right now, as I'm speaking these words, all of you that are hearing this have a level of self-dialogue going on in their mind going, well, does this guy, who is this guy? Is he saying anything that's true? So you really got to work at the ego in validating your experience. Much of the time, the acidic skill sets will be repeated. But at first, you must, as I said before, you must nurture them through validation. Bend your disbelief simply because it doesn't fall within the parameters of your accepted reality. Suspend your disbelief. It doesn't make you an innocent fool, like some of the sleeping population would probably call you. It doesn't make you, prone to being taken advantage of. And then you've got the psychologists that will come along and say, oh, well, that's a chemical imbalance that's causing a certain type of activity to occur within your eyes. The lights that you see floating off in their distance are an overactive result of phosphenic activity behind the eyes, and as the phosphenic activity produces a certain special type of phosphine glow within the optic nerve, well, that optic nerve and that glow is transferred into a space that is out in front of the individual, when in fact, of course, it's in the back of the brain, because that's where the occipital lobe is and where the visual cortex extends to. Therefore, that is what it is. You don't want to allow that to occur. Did you like my psychologist? That was my psychologist's voice. Certainly not an alter ego, I'll tell you what. But you want to really recognize that the activity that you're experiencing is not due to an overactive imagination. It's not due to, if you're coming at this honestly, I'm going to have to preface this now. If you're coming at this honestly, if the Kundalini has actually come to you, and you're not well, I'm a Reiki number 10, or oh well, I saw a channeler last night, and she gave me the gift of whatever, or you haven't kind of talked yourself into wanting something so badly that you begin to create it. You see, that's one of the pitfalls of what I'm talking about right here. Is you've got the outside authority of the sleeping population, the unawakened, unactivated population. And then you have that aspect of your ego, which is definitely connected to the creative aspect of the imagination. And so it's like 2/3 of an entire one unit. 2/3 of yourself are attacking yourself for having true validating experiences with the Kundalini, and that, the Kundalini being that 1/3. Now, of course, the Kundalini is strong enough that it can just blow you away with the phenomena, but it chooses not to do that for various reasons. And some of those reasons are it requires that you come into this through levels of truth, levels of validating what it is that you're experiencing without second guessing it due to fear or due to societal programming. See, that's very important. You have to understand that this is a real thing. Do your research on the web, and if you Google the word Siddha, or S as in Sam, I as in iPad, D as in dog, D as in dog, H as in happy, A as in apple, Siddha, that Sanskriti word will come up, and they'll begin to describe all the different things that siddhas are and what they can do. And these, in English, I call them exalted skill sets. And so as you experience these exalted skill sets, you really need to not poo-poo them by saying, oh my God, I was just imagining that, or oh, I just watched that program, and that somehow programmed me to have this experience, or any of the various excuses that a person can dream up that would serve to invalidate the paranormal quality of the experience that you've just had. This is one of the main blockages to experiencing these things, and people just go, I get this a lot. They come to me, Chrism, how do I see spirits? How do I hear spirits? How do I, experience celestial music? How can I have telepathy? How can I open my third eye? All of these different things. And yet, when it starts to occur for them, they start to invalidate it immediately. Atlanta Seeker is typing something here, so I'll be reading her question or her statement in a second. So it's very, very important for you to suspend your disbelief. And the other very important aspect of it is, okay, Atlanta Seeker is saying, Chrism, do you remember in which book T.L. Rampa discusses okay, I'll just say it the way it's supposed to be said. The Langopa runners you mentioned a few weeks ago. So she's actually, this pertains to Siddhic skills. These are the Tibetan monks who can literally fly in short hops of about 60 yards, or basically covering a tremendous amount of distance through the air by virtue of a certain type of meditation and a certain position of the moon. The moon and its gravitational pull also has something to do with that. And I have to say, Atlanta Seeker, that was not. I mean, I think T-Lob Singh Rampa did mention it, but I didn't get it from that book. I actually got it from a Western-trained scientist who wrote about it in the 1920s. A woman, she experienced it directly. And what you might want to Google is Tibetan flying monks. Google that, and you should come up with a manuscript that was written in the 20s and early 30s of the last century. And she describes seeing these and witnessing these in firsthand from a distance. She could see the man basically making these tremendous leaps through the air, much like what you would see some of the kite surfers do here in Northern California. If you go out to Bodega Bay or out on the coast, you'll see these guys with little like rectangular parachutes, and they catch the wind, and on their feet they have kind of like a surfboard, and when the wind catches them, I mean, they literally fly through the air quite a distance, and of course they land on the water, then they do it again and again and so forth. Well, these folks, the monks would do it in more of a straight line than these kite surfers would do. But that is, I would not be able to tell you which book that Tuesday Lob Singh Rampa discusses that. But I do know that my first information about that was not in one of his books. Something like 20 Years in Tibet or some sort of a book like that. But it's an older published manuscript, and it was published by a woman archaeologist who was visiting Tibet in the late 20s, early 30s. And she witnessed this, herself. And other people have witnessed it too. So go ahead and Google flying monks of Tibet or something like that, and you should be able to come up with that information. And you can bet that these monks, as they flew through the air and they're deep in their meditation and the lunar cycle is just perfect, that they're not going, as they're flying through the air, they're not going, oh, I'm not really doing this. This is not happening. This must be my overactive imagination as they come in for a landing. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really important for you to really put aside the societal demand of the scientific method, which requires the ability to rip apart a quality or a behavior, and then through that measuring of it and the replication of it through the egoic self, then it's real. If the ego can run that process through its invalidation sequence, and if that citic skill it allows itself to be repudiated and tested by the ego body, well then of course it's real. But then it's only real for whoever it's got to be on TV. It's got to be in real life. You've got to go in front of a panel of scientists. And then, you need to have yourself strapped to a table and then have the surgeon sacrifice you for science so he can cut into you and see what makes your brain tick. How does that guy do that? We've got to find out. Let's cut him open. Sacrificed for science. Right. So you could kind of get an idea from what I'm saying right here, what level of difficulty it is for people to believe the gifts of grace that are given. Now, not everybody is as ensconced in the scientific method as I'm making it out to be. I certainly wasn't. I've received a lot of these psychic skills early on, from an early age, all the way up to the present moment, and I thoroughly believe it. So I don't need to be validated through society or validated through the scientific method. Even though my dad was a scientist, I don't really require those things. To me, the most important thing is the level of truth that the grace applies to the citic skill. And I don't question that. I don't second guess it anymore. I stopped doing that a long time ago. And I suggest that you begin to look at that yourself. If you can place yourself on that silver and gold glowing pyramid with the tip of the pyramid going up into the sky, into the stars, and the wide base of the pyramid, you're standing on the second or third step, because this requires a level of trust and personal validation for you to receive some of these skill sets. And some of these skill sets, the Kundalini will push you up on the second or third step first, and then, allow you to learn what you need to learn on the first step. But she will really ignite your interest. She will ignite the fire of your curiosity to find out what was that? What happened to me? I got to find out more about this. And then off you go running on to Google or other search engines. And, I was like, okay, I was on the ceiling and I could see myself sleeping. And what the heck was that? Or, okay, I became a praying mantis and I was on the walls and I was really myself, but I was a praying mantis at the same time. And, oh my gosh, how does this work? Or, I was able to give that person a healing just by asking Kundalini to give that a healing. What is going on with that? So all the there's like hundreds and hundreds of different citic skills that the Kundalini can bestow upon a person. One of the easier ones, I don't know if it's easiest. I mean, it takes a level of disconnecting yourself from your ego, but streaming the Shakti is another citic skill. that a person can do. But anyway, all these civic skills require that you set aside portions of the ego that deny the viability of what you're experiencing. So think about that. Think about what you do in your everyday life to deny the experience of the paranormal. Do you do it at all? Are you fully, consciously aware of how you are when it comes to being face-to-face with a paranormal quality or a paranormal event? Very important that you consider this. And oddly enough, one of the qualities that can be very strongly associated with the civic skills is your level of service that you're giving to other people. You know, are you helping homeless people? Are you helping animals that need help? Are you practicing ahimsa? You know, do not kill, do not harm. What are you doing to support life on this world? What are you doing to help support other consciousness on this world that doesn't necessarily belong to you? What are you doing? How are you helping others, whether it be people or animals or plants or the soil or the rivers or the air? How are you helping? What are you doing to add grace to this beautiful place that we live in? Ask yourself that question and answer yourself honestly. If you're not doing a whole lot, and you want to have the experience of civic skill sets, I want you to really become, enmeshed inside a system of service. Giving service to complete strangers is best. Giving service to wildlife or to the other creations of the divine upon this world, like animals and insects and birds and fish and reptiles and all of the different qualities of life upon this world. Reach into your heart and see what you can do from a love-based perspective to give healing and help and service upon this planet. You've got to do it. It is one of the basic foundations of your Kundalini awakening equation. And I know, I've heard it before. Well, people come up to me and say, well, Chrism, the Kundalini came up to me anyway. I didn't have to lift a finger to help. I didn't have to do anything. It just came on to me, and I have all these visions and all these powers, as they like to call the civic skills powers. I can do this and I can do that, and you just hear the ego in them screaming at you. You say, oh my God, you're just kind of waiting patiently for it to end. I got a new phone, and because I'm so good, my goodness just permeates the world. That type of a thing. And well, it's true. It's true. Sometimes, as I mentioned before, she will give you the civic skills first and then help you to nurture them second. But nurture them you must. I don't care if you get them first or you get them second. In many ways, it's better to get them secondarily, because then you learn to really what it is to have and to hold through changing your behaviors, changing how you relate to this world, changing how you relate to yourself, changing how you relate to the other life forms on this planet. And it allows you a template of understanding and application that can bring and really nurture the civic skills that she's given you immediately or later, but it can really open the gates to many, many of these civic skills coming through. And we always want to remember, when we talk about the civic skills, that these skills are tools in the toolkit. These are not to be considered the end of the path. These are not to be considered, what you have striven to have Kundalini for, which you've got to really understand this. These exalted skill sets are really there for you to help other people with in big ways, in ways that defy their expectation of science. So you really want to understand that. You don't want to just, you know, think that, oh gosh, I finally got the Siddhic skills. I don't have to meditate anymore. Or, oh, I got the Siddhic skills. Now I am the God that I've always wanted to be. And now I go out and I get on TV and I join the circus or whatever I can do to self-aggrandize myself to the point where, you know, in reality, the Siddhic skill would disappear. But in their ego mind, you know, that I can show people what a supernatural person I am and make lots of money based on that. Okay. These are the areas that you don't really want to really have materialize within your consciousness. You've got to understand that these are tools to be used. They are not the end of the path. But they're pretty, you know, I have to admit, they're outstanding tools. They're amazing things. You know, healing is a tool, or clairaudience is a tool, telepathy is a tool. You know, and always, and I've mentioned this in other programs, but I'll go ahead and say it again here. Always hold it in the highest level of sacredness. Okay. You want to really disconnect your ego to the point that you're not bragging to yourself about yourself, and that you're not bragging to other people about yourself. Because they will categorize you, if they know you've got a Siddhic skill, they will categorize you as having powers. And they will begin to establish an opinion about you that because you have the powers, therefore, you know, you must be obeyed, or you must be right all the time, or you must in some way be an incredibly egotistical person because you have this amazing power. And so, of course, because they would become incredibly egotistical, therefore you must be too. And that need not be the case. Unfortunately, in some of the cases, they're right. That person does become very, very egotistical, with regards to the skill sets that they have. You have really got to disconnect that ego quality from having these amazing levels of Siddhic skill, of superpowers. Okay. And, some of the skill sets you can be born with too, like some people are born, they're born with extreme levels of musical skill. They're born with, they're like a Mozart, they could write a symphony when they're 5, or they can, they have an eidetic memory and they can remember everything that they see in just one glance, or maybe they're born with extreme beauty, and to the degree that the gender attracted to that beauty can just be blown away all the time, and this can begin to sculpt their life. They become an actress or a model or some person based upon that one Siddhic skill. I mean, it can happen. It can happen to people. They can be born with it, and yet even though that occurs, they still must nurture it. And a lot of that has to do with karma too. Those Siddhic skills that we're born with have a lot to do with karma. Anyway, at this point, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the real power behind this program. The person who created the program, the person who's paying for this program that you're listening to right here. So she is gifting this to her own financial ability, and I'd like to introduce Santara Kundalini. So hello, Santara.
Hi, Chrism. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Just to alert you that Indra is there in the chat in the studio,
okay.
And she will have a question for you whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how are you, and do you have any comment to this, Santara?
No, I don't, Chrism. I don't have any comment on it at all,
Okay.
really.
Okay, all right. So as we continue with this ego control, you've really got to disassociate yourself from the ego being the dominant factor in how you relate to your life. This is how you begin to access some of these civic skills. Yes, you do the practice, and the safeties practice is fine for that. You do the 5 Tibetans, you do the alternate nostril breathing, you do the recapitulation, you do the forgivenesses, you do the gratitudes, you do the service for other people, you do the meditation, you do a permutation of all of those things. And you can also do a compacting together. Like, so for instance, you can do the 5 Tibetans, and we'll choose a 3rd Tibetan. You can do levels of gratitude, thinking of what you're grateful for as you do the 3rd Tibetan, or you can do the 1st Tibetan, and you can visualize how you forgive. You can do the 4th Tibetan, and you can visualize how you want to serve other people that day, or the grace within you that day. So you can merge them together as well. But make sure that you're actually honestly doing it. Don't just kind of go through the don't just give it lip service. Okay, I forgive the president for doing this, and I forgive Chrism for clicking on the radio show last week, and as you're going through the 5 Tibetans. At the beginning, it's better just to start them individually and do the whole practice. The whole practice, if you do it quickly enough, will take you less than an hour. And this, if you're really, really interested in nourishing your Kundalini, you do that safeties practice twice a day. But I want to get back to the ego and its self-aggrandizing qualities. Vanity is one thing. You want to look at yourself, and let's just say that you're a very, very attractive person, and every time you see yourself in the mirror, you just go, oh yes, oh my gosh, wow, nobody on TV can touch me, or nobody in the modeling world or the film world. I mean, I should be there, but I decided to do Kundalini first, and I decided to give myself to God in this way. And although, gosh, I just love to see myself in the mirror here. You really want to take that out, that self-aggrandizement out. It will block you. Vanity will block. And the reverse is the same too. The reverse is also part of vanity. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, oh my God, what is that looking back at me? What nightmare did that face come from? Oh my God, I can't look at that anymore. I'm leaving the bathroom. That's also vanity. That's also the reverse of that would be self-invalidation. I mean, that can block you just as strongly as self-aggrandizement can. And so you really need to be able to accept yourself as you are, accept the beauty that you are without going over the top with it. Find the balance between the two poles of the expression. Find the middle balance of the spectrum. And that can really help an individual. And as you're able to do that, as you're able to kind of distance yourself from the extreme ends of the vanity equation, and you can find yourself in the middle. You can say, yes. No, I may not be as beautiful as that model, or I may not be as ugly as that mushroom that just got ran over by the truck. But I am as the divine has made me, and I have a purpose to serve here. And this is, and I am totally grateful for that. I am grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be able to have this energy manifest upon me, and I will do my utmost to serve this energy and to nourish it and to help it expand and grow within me. And so you find that balance point. Find the balance point and take out the qualities of vanity. Don't be vainglorious about anything, and don't hold yourself above others because society does so. And don't hold yourself below others because society does so. You see what I'm saying? And now I'm going to go on over to Indra, and she has a question here. Hello, Indra.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. It's a non-clicking show today. No click.
Pardon me?
We're click-free today.
Okay, good. Well, I have a question. I don't know if it kind of relates to what you were saying, or an extension of what you were saying. But it's so from having feelings of the ground under you was spinning to chakras spinning within your body, feelings of massive energy moving through the body, to feeling that you're being stuck in an abyss, to bliss, joy, all those things, to many chakras spinning in the crown. I can't help but think, who are we? Where did we come from, and where are we going? What are we supposed to do?
And you're asking me?
I'm asking you. It's a question. You can't help but, think. You can't help but ask that question, really.
Well, I'm just going to say, forget about all the symptoms. Forget about all the signs. Don't get caught up in those things.
Well, no, but
here.
what I'm saying is,
we are here to move. We are here. We are here to move into the divine. We are here to go from the physical, human, animalistic creature into semi-divinity, where you are the physical human, but you're the divine human at the same time.
Right.
This is the goal. This is why we're even having the Kundalini. This is why the Kundalini doesn't just kill the body and ascend you as a fully ascended divine being. No. We are going into levels of divine expression, and that is the goal. That's not just the goal for the human population. That's the goal for every form of creation on this world. I don't care if it's the minerals. I don't care if it's the creatures of the air, which we don't know about yet. I don't care if it's an animal or amphibian or fish or bacteria or virus or plant. That is the goal of all life on this world, is to come into a level of divinity, a divine expression. That's why we're here. That's why it's happening to you, Indra.
Right. Huh. Well, it's no ordinary experience, and I can't. Sometimes I can't imagine life going back to the world. I mean, I work. I have my son. I take care of my son. I am out there, but I'm not really out there. And I got home from work, and I can't even comprehend. After all this is said and done, I don't know how it all fits in. I don't know how to go back. I don't understand.
But now you do.
How are we supposed to just move on?
Well, you actually don't move on.
Right.
You get moved on. You get moved on now. It's like you said at the beginning, your chakras are spinning and you're having all of these paranormal experiences. And in your case, and at this time, the paranormal is doing you rather than you doing it.
Okay.
So the wick has been lighted. And the candle is burning, and because of the addition of the flame to the candle, the shape of the candle is changing.
Right.
the shape and the expression of your life is changing. And
Right.
no, your ego mind will not be able to keep up with it. But you know the goal. You know
Yes.
the goal.
Yep.
The goal is very, very clear. It's to become divine, a permanent level of physical divine union with the all that
Yep.
is. Call it God, call it Krishna, whoever you want to call it.
Yes.
But that is what it is, and that transformation is why you're here, and it's why what is happening to you is happening at all. And yes, of course, you still have to go to work. You still have to take care of your son. You still have to take care of yourself. You still have to do all these things. It does not. That too is part of the process. You got to remember, we're talking semi-divine, meaning 50%
Yes.
divine and
Yes.
50% flesh.
Yes.
You've still got to take care of the 50% flesh part.
Of course.
And so
Yes.
basically you're being changed into a divine, the divine flesh, or the flesh made divine. And as you go through your life
Yeah.
living your fleshly existence, the divine aspect of you begins to insinuate itself into everything around you, into your son, into your house, into the utensils you use to eat, into perfect strangers who stand in line with you, into the people that you work with, into the animals and the plants and the air and the light that you engage. The divine radiance that comes off of you begins to help other forms of creation come into levels of transformation.
Okay. Oh my God, I was very overwhelmed today. Well, it seems like my energy has calmed down from 3 years of nonstop 24/7 energy that was bigger, huge energy around me. It seems like it's settling to the spine, and it seems calm, very blissful, very loving, very peaceful. But I feel like I'm in La La Land. I'm very spaced out, but I have all these questions. I'm asking myself all these questions, and I had to call in and get the answer from you.
Because I'll tell you what, you ask questions that others are afraid to ask. You're demonstrating your fearlessness, and you're demonstrating your lack of ego fixation, because it's not so easy to put yourself out on the line and saying, hey, I'm experiencing things that nobody else is experiencing, that other people could think I'm a.
And that's true. That is very true.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not stuck on that ego platform. So that's a feather in your cap. That's a congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate the show. It feels like it's somewhere and someone to touch base with, check in with. Call it validation. I know, I'm not. Feels like home, a check-in point. And thank you very much.
I hope everybody can feel that way when they participate in this program. And thank you, Indra. Thank you very much for calling.
Yes, thank you. Thank you too.
And there we have it. If anybody else, either in the chat room or somebody else that's listening on their smartphone or the computer right now, I know that Centara has placed this on the groups, in the various groups, and all you have to do is kind of press the triangle, I think, to be part of the show. Is that right, Centara? Can you tell them what they have to do to just kind of join in to hear it live? I think she may be indisposed.
No, I'm not. But when you're going to ask me a question, click red at the same time, please. So it's great actually. If you're on the groups, you just click that little triangle on your photograph, on Chrism's photograph, and it brings you directly into the live broadcast. So I advertise it before the show happens, and then once Chrism starts broadcasting, I change it and I let people know, click on Chrism's photograph and you're straight in. So it's great. And what happens then after the show, when you click, it should bring you into the archived show. So you can still be on Facebook and listen. So if anybody is clicking now, I'd like to welcome you, because they might not show up on our chat room or obviously in our studio, but we could have listeners on Facebook listening to us at this moment as well.
Wow.
And I'd like to thank Indra, because I agree with you. She has come on and she has asked questions, and you know, they mightn't be people's questions today, but they are so helpful, because you know, we all go through these phases and these questions, and so somebody asking, when she asks a question, you know, it's not just her question. It probably belongs to all of us at some point in our process. So I appreciate Indra phoning in, and she's in the archived show as well, so that's a blessing for people. So thank you, Indra.
And Indra is definitely a blessing here, and her question is too, as are you, Santara. And I would like to go ahead and put out the call-in number. If a person there on Facebook right now and in our group or any of the groups that have that little triangle there, the call-in number is area code 347-934-0026. That's 347-934-0026. And you can call in, and Santara Kundalini will answer the phone, and she'll alert me to your question. And hopefully we can do a little service here. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and continue with this, because it is such a major issue in the culture of the West, this idea of self-infatuation or self-invalidation, and at the same time, you're striving to have certain exalted gifts come to you while you're looking in the mirror and going, oh, I'm a gorgeous goddess, or oh, I'm a, you know, where did that Gorgon come from? Oh, and I gotta take that back, because the Gorgon, the woman with all the snakes for hair, that was a depiction of Kundalini, by the way, turning people to stone, basically forcing them to ground themselves. So there's hidden meanings throughout all of the Greek mythologies and the King James version of the Bible, the desert theology. And then the many different cultures, from Zoroastrianism to Ahura Mazda and all these different religious ideologies, they all have hidden streams of Kundalini information, including Islam. Okay, so, and especially the shamanic theologies. So just to say that. But we really need to look at ourselves and how we manifest our ego into the public environment and into the private environment. Do we take away? Do we deprive people of assistance because we don't like the way we look? Do you think that's nurturing your Kundalini? Is that nurturing acidic skill? Do we say, oh my God, I just don't like the way my hair was in that video. Oh my God, I just cannot, that hair is, oh no, absolutely not. It's not blonde enough. It's not brown enough. It's not red enough. It's not black enough. Oh my God, there's a gray hair. I could have swore I saw gray hair in that video. No, I can't leave that video up. Do we do that? Even though people right and left are being helped by the information that a person is given in that video? Do we just take it away because our vanity, causes us to be uncomfortable with it? Is that what we do, Santara?
No, Chrism, that's not what we should do. No, it's not what we do when we're, no. I mean, I suppose as you're talking there, I'm myself, and I'm thinking, how am I? And I'm thinking, there's a fine line, or at least there's a balance, between, like, say, attaching to things like phenomena or vanity or all those things you're speaking of, attaching, observing, and then validating or invalidating. There are so many things that ego throws up, isn't there? To dismiss, I suppose, in some way, what is actually being graced through the Kundalini and by the Kundalini.
All right. I mean, what an interesting idea to see that I'm just going to use the video as an example, but there are many other examples, but you put a video out there because you don't like the way you look, you take that down, virtually depriving anybody that has an important Kundalini or other issue, depriving them of that assistance based upon your egocentrism. You don't like, the hair's too gray, or the makeup isn't just right, or, whatever that may be. I mean, that type of an attitude, that my ego is more important than the people I'm here to help. That attitude can really, really block a civic skill set from coming in and from expressing itself, because the ego is the most important thing in that person's understanding. And, they can sit there and they can give great advice, all night long. And yet if they have that ego blockage, they're not going to get what they think they're going to get. Very important.
Wasn't that rising for, just to take that as an example, if I just continue with that, I know it can be applied in lots of different ways, but let's say take that example, Chrism. So that rises for a person and they respond, but in that happening also is the opportunity to learn, isn't there? That and let the ego know that that's not okay and that that's not what you're to do, because that maybe sometimes has to come in order for you to choose not to do that. Now, you might choose, but then you may change your mind and you learn that that is not the way to go.
Right. Absolutely. That would be the right thing. Yeah, correct. So yeah, you really want to look at it and, try to change it towards a less self-aggrandizing way of expressing yourself. Okay. So I want to encourage any questions about this. Anybody have any questions about this? And let's see, Santara, do you have any announcements that you'd like to make?
Yes, I do, Chrism. I'll actually begin today with the seminars. I'll maybe start, or the seminar that's happening in Europe is happening in September, which is the month before the Minnesota one. So it's Manisha is organizing that in Berlin. And Manisha has put up a post today on the group, and she's inviting people that are going to come to the seminar to send her their deposit of €75. And I would like to just also encourage people to do that, because by sending in your deposit now, Manisha gathers the money then that will enable her to purchase the plane ticket that will actually bring Chrism from California over to Berlin. And the nearer the time comes to September, the more expensive the tickets get. So she has a number of deposits, but that's not a cheap flight. So if you're considering coming, or if you've made up your mind to come, I would really encourage you to send your deposit now, please, to Manisha. It's just a €75 deposit, and she will gather those and get Chrism's plane ticket early. Now, just to give you the dates, it's starting on Friday, the 15th of September, and that day is for people who have attended a seminar previously, one of Chrism's seminars previously, or if they're currently a private student of Chrism's or they're communicating with Chrism in some way like that, they're being invited to come on the Friday. Then on the Saturday and on the Sunday, that's the 16th and the 17th, that will be the 2-day seminar that Chrism gives, the Kundalini seminar that Chrism will give. So all in all, it's the 15th, 16th and 17th of September. And again, please do go to Kundalini Awakening exclamation point on Facebook, and you will see Manisha's post, or you can go to Kundalini Seminars and Events with Chrism, and that's Facebook as well, and you will get all the information there. And the other announcement I'd like to make is, if you would like to make a donation to the work that is being done, you can certainly send a donation. It would be gratefully received. And that would be www.kundalinisafeties.com or www.chrism-kundalini www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. Thank you, guys. And that would be for donations. Those are the 2 announcements, Chrism.
Thank you. Thank you, Centaur. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Rosemary on. And hello, Rosemary.
Hello there, Chrism. It's wonderful to hear all those things happening. It is great. And we have, it will be after the one in Germany, but our seminar...
okay, go ahead. You need to tell them what we got.
Yes, and we have our venue. It is the American, with CINN, American Hotel and Conference Center in Mankato. Its address just generally is Stadium Road, and we have a special rate for the rooms, and we have a block of rooms that they're holding for us. And we'll be there 28th and 29th, and look forward to being with those folks. We don't know who they are yet, but it will be an amazing 2 days, and there's a lot of interest there in Mankato. And something else I was going to say, and I forgot. But
that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. My phone number, 651-329-9615, Rosemary G. at usinternet.com. Always delighted to speak about the seminar and the benefits that it is to being with you, Chrism, for those 2 days. And it's really the Shaktipat that is coming to us through you. So thank you.
All thanks go to the Kundalini, and thank you, Rosemary. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, now's the time to call, 347-934-0026. And I will go ahead and just to reiterate a little bit here, do your very best not to get in your own way. Do your very best to take the ego out of validating yourself, out of validating your Kundalini experiences, out of validating the civic skills that come through. Trust what you're seeing and trust what you're experiencing, and this will nourish you more than anything else. You've got to have trust. Until you have trust, and trust in the grace of your the validation of who you are, how you are, why you are, where you are, in what physical condition or financial condition, or any of the conditions that apply to the human. You are there for a very specific reason. And one of the reasons is to not get caught up about why you are, who you are, how you are, where you are. You are a point of grace that is in development in real time on this physical world, extending into the non-physical world. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, this is a big New Age thing. Well, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, things like that. Well, that, and that's all good and true, but it lacks a bit of I don't know how to say it, maybe this veracity, because the two that become one is exactly what you're having happen within you right now. And so just consider that. And if you have a question, you can reach me at kfireforall@yahoo.com. That's KFIREFORALL @yahoo.com, or you can reach me at Kundalini Awakening ! On Facebook. It's a group. Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini People, all on the Facebook network. And also Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at yahoogroups.com, and you can reach me there. And I want to thank everybody for joining me today. And it'll be a short show. And, thank you, Rosemary and Indra and Shantara for being on the program. And thank you, everybody, for joining me in the chat room. And I will see you next week. Yes.
Chrism. Is there a reason you need to go early?
Yeah.
Okay. David has a question.
Well, let's hear it.
Hello.
Hello, David.
Chrism. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you were saying about the ego getting in the way. Early on in my Kundalini activation, when I was opening up to and given energy sensitivities and some limited telepathy, I had no information at that time on what was happening, and I didn't know about the practice of the safeties, didn't practice any noble behaviors. I went right into fear and into panic and anxiety about what was happening. And I really couldn't tell the difference between my own feelings and thoughts and sensitivities and those that were coming from perhaps entities or coming from other people. And I just panicked and shut down whenever I went into public. And with the energy this was giving off, it created a extremely negative energetic vibration coming from me and made others feel very anxious and uncomfortable in my presence. And this was just, I realized over the years it was the complete opposite of why I was opened up to these gifts in the first place.
Is that a statement?
Yeah,
Hello?
not necessarily a question.
Absolutely.
Just commenting on what you were saying.
Yeah, people can become very turned off, especially when their energetic radiance is impacted by the awakening Kundalini's energetic radiance. That can become a very contrasting experience, and that contrast can be kind of like sandpaper on the soul in a way, and so it's as you mentioned, you weren't given any clue as to how to do certain things or to, practice the noble behaviors that that you're aware of, at least not from a flesh teacher or anything of that nature, and so that in and of itself can create a dissonance with the people that you're talking with and the people that you're being around, people that you're working with, your family. It can create a level of dissonance there. And that is where the noble behaviors really become so important, because as you amplify the noble behaviors of love and patience and acceptance and trust and gratitude and happiness and as you manifest those will get amplified too. But I understand, that the other side of the coin must also be expressed. You do have that 50% of you that is the flesh person, and that flesh person has the authority to have a bad day or to have a difficult time. But the Kundalini will begin to change the level of expression that authority can bring into the equation. And so as you manifest that, you can begin to change the spectrum of good versus evil or good versus bad in the way that you interact with others. I apologize for some of the noise that you hear in the background. So, David, at first, you were given the ability to have the phenomena, and you were given the ability to reach in some way towards a level of goodness, a level of sacredness. But the society and the education that you have does not support that. And that is kind of what we kind of start off with, in this society. We start off with insecurity and fear and trepidation and second guessing ourselves and, things of that nature. And so I think that your development was right on target. And I think that she allowed you to feel that you needed the reason to have guidance.
Yeah.
So she allowed you to feel the reason to search for certain levels of guidance that would bring you into an area that you could manifest greater levels of nobility in your behaviors. And that is exactly what has occurred, in my opinion. Well, how do you feel about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's just really difficult when all of a sudden other people's thoughts would come into my head, or it felt like someone else was catching on to my sensitivities or thoughts. I would instantly try to hide them and get really anxious. I wasn't really comfortable with myself. I wasn't very grounded, which is really some of the things you need to be open and to kind of project that openness and that love. It just wasn't there.
Well, yeah, I mean, right. The grounding wasn't there, and so your stability was off. But I think she kind of gave you a difficult experience at first. And the difficult experience allowed you to feel the discomfort, to feel the lack of balance, to feel the effects that others would have upon you as they, respond to the energy that you have. And by feeling that disturbance in your own force and your own ability to empathize with other people and what they may be feeling, that caused you to go out and look for answers that could change the way that you are responding to the energy. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what happened. And I think that you've done well. I mean, you've changed aspects of your life, and your life, you've had some challenging experiences, and you've done the right thing. In many of them, you've done the wrong thing too. That's the 50% human side that we still need to work out. Divinity doesn't make those kinds of mistakes. It's only the merging between the divine and the physical that we can make some mistakes that can cause us to have to self-correct in some way.
Mm. Do you think maybe some of the energy given off and other people's reactions was the Kundalini's way of helping me get some distance from people that maybe I shouldn't be really associating with all the time?
Oh yeah, and that can be really obvious. That can be really obvious. So yeah,
because that's almost like bordering on a fragmentation, isn't it?
Well, maybe a social
frag,
like a social frag. And just a second here, Lila O, I see you there, and I see your questions. Vicky, I see yours as well, and we'll be getting to those too. But yeah, that social reconstruction, I would say, David, where she wants you to change the quality of radiance and emanation, vibratory frequency emanation from the people that you're currently hanging out with, right? She wants you to change that. And so by virtue of the sacred feminine coming through the Kundalini, certain levels of irritation will be will be given into the vibration of the radiance that you give. And those people will kind of like become very uncomfortable around you. And these are people that maybe you've known for years and years. And it's just a population shift that she wants the person to make. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for calling in, David. Very, very nice of you. Okay, bringing you into the blue, and I want to welcome Lila O to the program that I was just about to end. And Lila O says, hello, guys and girls. Great to be here and listen, live, and love. And blessings to you, Lila O, as well. Vicky Vaughn says, I'm glad this question was asked. I don't have to do a thing. And many people are distant from me, especially in groups. And I always wonder why this is. And I would suggest, Vicky, unless it's a Kundalini group where people can kind of understand what you may be going through and how you may be going through what you're going through, the people they wouldn't understand why they're feeling a certain vibratory frequency from you that's irritating them. They wouldn't even be able to pinpoint that it's a vibratory frequency that is irritating them. They would just kind of go, wow, whenever that Vicky's around, gee, she just makes me so angry. Or just, God, what? Who gave her the right to breathe my air? And Vicky says, I always feel like I'm the dark one. Well, yeah, that can happen. That can happen. And she continues to say, or that they make me feel like that. Yeah. Well, you just, these are the areas that we move through as we learn what it is to be forgiving, as we learn what it is to be gracious, as we learn what it is to respond and say some of the more noble qualities. These are the triggers for those noble qualities. These are not triggers to be used by the ego as a way of self-invalidation. Yeah. It's going to get noisy around here. I just got to warn everybody. I got the big girls here. The big dogs are in the front, and they tend to like to run around quite a bit. So you will, as David mentioned and as Vicky mentioned, your heightened energy. I mean, I've explained the physics before on this program, and I'll go ahead and explain it again. Physics, they like to use the term photonic packets or packets of light, and so we'll just use their terms. So a person with activated or awakened Kundalini will have a high degree of luminous photonic packets circulating their aura and circulating it at a certain speed, typically faster. And then they'll stand next to a person that doesn't have that speed or have those light packets. And the packets from the Kundalini person will impact the radiance that's coming through the unawakened person, forcing that radiance or that energy in the other person to go faster and faster and faster against maybe the ego will of the individual that it's impacting. And that can cause irritation, that can cause anxiety, that can cause fear, that can cause distrust, that can cause, a myriad of different types of responses that unless they have a good handle on the noble qualities can really begin to eat away at their comfort and being around you. Okay, so, and you will have to change in many ways you'll have to change your friends. And in some ways you'll have to change your spouse. And in some ways you may have to change your workplace. That's part of the deal here too. All right, well.
So, do you want me to ask a few questions, Chrism, or I have a few, or do you want to finish?
Let's go ahead.
Okay.
Let's just ask. We'll ask 2 questions.
Can you please ask of Chrism if there are differences in Kundalini awakening between men and women?
Yeah, there are. There are physiological differences. Obviously, the genders are physiologically different. And because of that physiological difference, there will be different physiological experiences associated with them. Next question.
There was a question on the group, Chrism, about you were asked on the group about do twin flames exist? And you spoke or you mentioned about twin souls. Yeah, would you be able to expand a bit?
Twin flames are more of a romantic fantasy propelled by people that are lonely or that don't feel like they're having enough of a social life, or they're not happy with their spouse, or they want a boyfriend so bad, that type of thing. It's like, oh, my twin flame, and they want to put a lot of importance upon finding someone who they really, really love. And I don't really see a problem with that, except when they insert it into truthful spiritual paradigms, which is what happens a lot to people, and they make it an issue that it isn't. Twin souls, on the other hand, all souls have the male female split, just like the yin yang, and so they are the goal of the twin soul is not to meet its other twin soul unless they are both out of the body. We don't need to meet that aspect of ourselves so much, because it takes us away from learning about the other outside of ourselves aspects of who we are. And so, the Kundalini can bring those two together. But, that's something that the Kundalini does. That's not something that somebody goes, oh, I've met my twin soul. They usually typically confuse that with the twin flame scenario. Over.
Okay, Chrism, thank you.
All right, and thank you, everybody, for joining me in this program. I know I'm about a half hour early today, but I'm going to try to figure out something different. At least we're not getting clicks here, so that's helpful. Maybe it'll make it a little easier to listen to this program as opposed to the other. And so thank you, everybody, and I will see you. Any last words, Centara?
No, Chrism, no.
Okay, and I will see you next week on a Wednesday, same time, same channel, same station. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Ah.